All right, so you've been playing fantasy football for a couple years now. You're really enjoying it and you understand the waiver wire system, how to pick up free agents. Yeah, I might be a little bit biased towards the worst teams in your league, but it's okay. But hold on, your team just introduced a FAAB budget. Now, what the heck is a FAAB budget and how do I use it? This has completely shifted the entire dynamic of how you acquire free agents. Well, have no worries. Today, we're going to be discussing what exactly a FAAB budget is and tips and tricks for you to best utilize the budget allotted to you. So as always, like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below on your personal tips and tricks if you are a FAAB user, and I'll see you on the other side of that intro. Welcome back into Twin Takes Fantasy Football. Today we'll be continuing our how-to series, breaking down what exactly a FAAB budget is and the best ways to utilize it throughout the season. Obviously, it's an alternative and more popular method that is gaining steam year over year for how to handle free agent waiver wire pickups week in and week out. So what exactly is a FAAB budget? First off, it's an acronym that stands for Free Agency Auction Budget. And as the name implies, it is an auction. So instead of having priority pickup to the free agents go to the worst team and then the second worst team and the third worst team, each week you're going to be bidding on the players, and whoever bids the highest amount of money or the free agent bucks gets to have that player join their team. And it's a little bit more fair as it allows some of the higher end teams to go in and try to acquire some of the more prolific free agents. Think about, you're competing and you've been doing well last year, and then Breece Hall goes down with that knee injury, and you're trying to bid to pick up Kenneth Walker, who was the big free agent winner of week 5, or maybe the year or 2 years before when Amon-Ra St. Brown was that league winner for most people. If you're in the playoffs or you're kind of making your playoff push, you want to be able to use a ton of your budget to go out and acquire some of those high-end free agents instead of just having them rot away on the worst team in the league. So again, the free agency budget, or the FAAB budget, just allows a little bit more availability of free agents, and again, helps allow players with more knowledge who do more research, who are a little bit more aggressive with getting their players the access to some of these higher free agent pickups. So how exactly are you supposed to use it? First, how much are you going to have? And most of the times when people talk about the FAAB budgets, they talk about percentages because each league normally is different. Sometimes it's $100 FAAB, sometimes it's 200, 300, 500, 1,000. And so you're obviously, if I say use $100 FAAB on XYZ player, it's different. It's a different percentage based on if you get 100 for the whole year or if you have $1,000 to spend. So typically, you'll hear people talking about it like use 10% of your FAAB budget, allocate 25% of your FAAB budget. Basically, it's a confidence rating for how much of your total FAAB that you have or have left you should be going out and spending on these different players. So it's also going to be a little different. Typically, the percentage does give you a pretty accurate indication, but I will say understand how much FAAB you have, whether it's 100 or whether it's 1,000, and how players generally treat that money. So if let's say Kenneth Walker, again, after the Rashad Penny injury, again, free agent darling of that week 5 last year. So if you have $100 and you bid 20 on him, and you have $1,000 and you bid 200 on him, that's essentially the same percentage. It's 20% of your total overall FAAB. However, if you have more FAAB, it's harder to get up into those numbers. Just the fact that even though it's the same percentage, 200 is a lot more than 20. So if you have a league that is lower in your total FAAB allotment, let's say $100, you're going to find people more willing to throw up a $20, a $25 bid on a particular player earlier in the year. So even if it's the same percentage-wise from 100 to 1,000, just because it's overall a bigger number, just the way human psychology works, people are more adverse to actually throwing out those 200 plus numbers. So that's a way for you to kind of beat the system. If you think you're a little bit smarter than everyone else and you have a higher FAAB budget, go ahead and throw up those bigger numbers that people are more adverse to, even when they reflect the same percentages as a smaller FAAB budget. That's just, I know I'm not just doing the most eloquent way to describe it. That's just the way human psychology works. So even though it's the same percentage from 20 to 200 versus 100 total FAAB versus 1,000 total FAAB, you're going to find yourself being able to use the same percentages in a larger FAAB pool and being able to win a lot more auctions just because people are more adverse to actually typing in those bigger numbers. So a little bit of psychology you can use to hopefully win some of your FAAB budget. And then obviously if you are in some of those leagues that have the smaller allotment, maybe hold back a little bit, as you will see people overpaying for players more often than not. Also, a big thing to understand, especially this is if you're in a Dynasty league. In redraft, it's pretty easy. You have a FAAB, it's for the whole season. Sometimes in Dynasty leagues, you will have a FAAB budget for the offseason, and then the FAAB budget will turn over, and they'll have a separate FAAB budget for in-season acquisitions. So make sure you understand how your FAAB is allotted within your respective league, because obviously, make sure you're priming yourself with rookie acquisitions, with free agent acquisitions well before the league starts if you're in a Dynasty league, because once that new week 1 starts and you get that new FAAB budget, all your previous FAAB disappears. It does not carry over. And then that also translates in if you have a Dynasty league season in season. Don't be afraid to spend your FAAB budget. It does not carry over. I don't know a single league that does carry over FAAB from year to year. Every single league I know that uses FAAB, it resets at the end of every year. So do not be afraid to go out and spend it. Do not be afraid to go out and get your guys, because you either use it or you lose it. Another thing, I see people having FAAB regret, which means if they really want a guy, they go out and they pay a ton of money for him and they think they got it. And then in hindsight, they're like, oh, come on, I could have gotten him for $50 instead of $100. Don't worry about it. If you like a guy, if you really believe in a guy, go out, overbid, make sure you get that guy, and don't look back. Because guess what? You can't change the past. You don't have a time machine. I don't have a time machine. So only worrying about, oh, I could have only bid 51 FAAB dollars and gotten the same player, and I still would have $49 FAAB dollars to play around with. Yes, that extra 49 FAAB dollars would be nice, but you can't change the past. But guess what? You got your player. You overpaid a little bit, but it's okay. It's going to do you a lot more good in the long run. You're going to rather overpay than underpay. And also, that kind of leads to another sub tip here. Avoid even numbers. A lot of people like 25, 50, 70, 60, that sort of stuff. Bid 71, bid 76, bid 101, the respective amount. Just put that extra 1 or 2 FAAB dollars because, again, human psychology, people normally like to stay with round numbers. So if you're going to throw in that extra 1 or 2 FAAB dollars, it will not make a difference in the long run, but could help you win a player by a very, very small margin. And obviously the last thing here, again, this is normally, I would see this more so in a Dynasty league, not really so in a redraft league, but it could be there. But can you trade your FAAB? Is that something you can throw in? Let's say you're trying to get a deal done and this guy's used up a ton of FAAB already on an early offseason acquisition. Hey, how about if I throw in 10 extra FAAB bucks? How about I throw in 50 extra FAAB bucks? Does this get the deal done? Or maybe if, you're getting to the end of the season and you want to get rid of a veteran player off your roster in a Dynasty league, and, you want to have the ability to pick up some free agents as they kind of break out towards the end of the season, throw out your veteran player. Say, hey, listen, I'll take him for 75 FAAB. See if you can trade it. Utilize it. It should be treated the same way as players, the same way as draft picks. It's assets that you control, that you can use to adjust your roster. So don't be afraid to use them in a multitude of ways. So that is going to wrap up this brief video on FAAB. I hope you have a better understanding of what a FAAB budget is and the best ways to utilize it to make you successful, whether in redraft or in Dynasty. Let me know if you have any further questions down in the comments below. I will try to respond. But until next time, see you around.